welcome to this level 21 episode of Voodu Warlock 2022. Right, so let's see where we're at. Level 21, ready to take 22, but I'm holding it because I wanted to do a couple quests. I'm choosing to do Weapon Shipment and Sins of Attrition for this episode because, well, you know, on Elite they're 21 and I'm low B epic level right now, but both gear-related quest choices. In Weapon Shipment, from the end chest, you can get the Mysterious Bauble, which is a really nice mana clicky. One of the best in the game. Really third to just the Epic and Legendary Ring of Spell Storing. This has 1 charge of Mage Mnemonic Aid per rest. So it's like a major mana pot per rest. Really nice mana clicky to add to your repertoire if you like to play casters bound to character. End chest of the Weapon Shipment. And then I've already done the other 3 Tower of Despair flaggers, and all those give Yugoloth favor. When you get 75 Yugoloth favor, you have access to the Yugoloth potion vendor, where you can get your Yugoloth potions, which are a set of 6 different potions, each giving +2 stacking bonus to a stat. 1 for each of the stats, and I like to have the Constitution ones on this tune because I'm a Constitution build, and if I'm doing some like end game raid tanking, and you know I want more Constitution, I can pot up and drink a Yugoloth potion for 2 more Constitution, and it has a secondary benefit of adding 20 hit points on top of that. And then I can also drink a lasting elixir of Bear's Stamina that I get for Remnants, and that's 2 more Constitution. So situationally, I can, just by drinking a couple potions, I can have 4 more Constitution, which at endgame would give me 64 extra hit points, plus 20 hit points, which is a secondary benefit of the Yugoloth potion. That's 84 hit points, plus bonuses. You're talking about, you know, about 100, a little over 100 extra hit points. So when I need that a little bit more, you know, because maybe I'm doing a tough raid or taking a tough raid boss, there I go. Now, I'm going to show the Yugoloth potions after we get done with Sins of Attrition. But you don't want to just go drinking them all willy-nelson, okay? You want to be familiar with what they do. There's 6 different potions, 1 for each stat, +2 stacking bonus to each stat, and each potion has a secondary benefit. So like I said, the secondary benefit of the Constitution potion is +20 hit points. That's over and above the extra hit points that you get from the +2 Constitution. The Intelligence ones, the secondary benefit is that it gives you slowly regenerating spell points over time. And the others have other secondary benefits. And they all have a detriment to using them. So, for example, the Constitution one gives a -5% to melee attack speed. So if you're a melee, you probably don't want to drink the Constitution Yugoloth potion. But as a tank, I don't care about melee attack speed. You know, I'm doing my DPS, the little bit that I do is through bursting anyways. So -5% melee attack speed doesn't mean anything to me. Or if you're a caster, that doesn't mean anything to you. So it's good to be familiar with the benefits and the penalty that you take when drinking those. And I have a video on that topic that I will link in the description of this video. All right, so nothing's changed with the gear. I'll just quickly show Summoner Spectacles, Coat of the Traveler, crafted dodge spell saves pairing on the bracers, crafted Dex, Constitution, and Stifle Con on the ring, Flightfoot Greaves, Dashing Gloves, crafted Insightful Physical Sheltering, Radiance Lore Sheltering, Heroic Greensteel Mineral 2 Belt for the extra hit points, Elite Ghost Waking Cloak, Epic Voice of the Master, crafted Charisma, Insightful Charisma spell saves on the necklace, and crafted Intimidate, Spell Focus, and Insightful Magical Sheltering on the helm. Still using the Fanion and the Epic Scepter of Radiance. At this point, I'm still favoring some DPS choices. By endgame, we'll be transitioning to full tank mode. And if you wanted to, you could, sacrifice some of the defensive choices and, pick up the extra spell power. You got 15 more spell power there, 15 more light there, and 15 more light there. There'd be 30 plus another 6 universal spell power out of each. That's another 12. So it'd be a total of 42 more spell power to light, because universal spell power does stack with each individual spell power. Okay. But one of the choices that I'm making is, I'm still running energy criticals and Colors of the Queen. I'll be replacing those epic past life stances with fast healing and the extra MRR. But right now, I'm just doing very easy difficulty content, trying to get to 29 or 30 as fast as possible, so I can then focus on more serious content and get that big Reaper XP out of legendary questing. Another choice that I'm making that is more DPS focused is the caster stick. So this is a radiant stick, right? But by end game, I'm going to be focused on something that has more either like crowd control effect or some sort of defensive stats. Like the sentient weapon that I have when I'm at end game is going to be loaded up with defensive filigrees. And, up to this point, I've been using, I can't even remember the name of the sword out of Dryad the Demigod that has the freezing effect. So any mobs hit by my aura and bursts have a chance to get frozen. But I believe I'll be switching over to a dinosaur bone crafted stick from Isle of Dread. I think I can get something much nicer for this, and those can be made sentient. I haven't decided what yet. I'm going to take a more serious look when we get there. I'm not too worried about it. Let's take a look at the quests. So since my last video, which was I made it a couple days ago, I did some token farming runs, no big whoop. Just did like R1, Storm the Beaches, and Bargain of Blood, Lords of Dust. I also did Epic Elite or R1 Double Assault. I do have a video about token farming. If you're interested in acquiring tokens of the 12, I don't know if maybe I'll just do those for the next level video, since 22 is still like a low beat epic level. And I can't emphasize enough that what I'm doing for purposes of this series is not my normal leveling routine. Like I said, Slayers and some big XP epic leveling dailies. But for the purpose of this series, I wanted to try to do some things that are more focused on, acquiring gear that might be helpful to you and showing what those quests are like. Let's see. I also did a couple Gibbers runs. That's a good XP per minute quest. I think that's about it. And like I said, I did the other Tower of Despair flaggers. So a new invasion, Bastion of Power, Genesis Point, and I did Wrath of the Flame as well. I think that's the only thing that I've done since the last episode. I don't know if there's any changes in the Destiny. I do have 4 more points to spend. I can get some Red Breath or something. But, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Let's do that. And only 1 point. Oh, nice. I didn't realize Healing Pillar was only 1 point. I wanted to get up to get some extra MRR, but now I don't have enough to get it. Too excited about any of this stuff remaining. At level 23, I'll be able to get tier 3, so maybe I'll just close it and say forget it, and I'll spend those points next level. So now that I'm 21, the Reaper trees are now maxed out to tier 4. 125 total Reaper points to max all that out. I won't be able to spend any more until here at 25, and then here at 27, and then your final core at 30. I don't think I really have anything to mention on favor. I did make a list, though, of the remaining stuff that I want to get. So Argonescent, I'm going to want to get to 400 to get that +2 save versus dragons. Harper's to 250 to get 2 perform and +5 hit points. Jay to 150 to get 5 more hit points. Keepers of the Feather, +2 to save versus undead. Moorgrave University now has a tier 2 as of update 57, so that's pretty new. Tier 1 gives me +2 to spellcraft. Tier 2 +5 hit points. PDK to 500. To get that bonus, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it's like +2 to save. I don't know. +2 save versus evil creature. I don't know. I can't remember what it is. Sharn City Council. 5 hit points available there, and then the 12 to get +2 save versus spells, and then Yugoloth up to 75, which I will after the quest I'm doing today, Sins of Attrition, to get those Yugoloth potions. So, again, I wouldn't go for all those favor rewards if I was just trying to knock out a past life, because I'm doing a final build. I'm wanting to get all of the favor benefits along the way that I can. So that's another reason why I'm not doing my normal leveling routine, besides the fact that I want to do stuff that's more relevant for, purposes of practical applications or acquiring useful stuff along the way, is getting that favor that I want to get, that I wouldn't do on a past life, but I want for my final life. Getting all those hit point bonuses, getting all those skill bonuses, getting all those save bonuses. And those save bonuses do stack over and above, these things. So, if I have the 12, 400 favor in the 12, and that gives me +2 save versus spells, that means, let's say, my fortitude save is 63. But if it's an incoming spell with a fortitude save, then I get +2 to that. Okay, and I've talked before how save versus spells does stack on top of that. A lot of people don't realize that. So here, where I have spell saves +6, that's 6 over and above what's listed here for purposes of incoming spells. So if I were to go through a trap with a reflex save, I would have a +60. But if I had a spell coming at me with a reflex save, well, then that would be +66, because I have 6 there. Actually, I think do I have Insightful there? No, I have spell save 8, so it would be another 8. Some redundancies in my gear set. I don't worry too much about it, because like I said, I'm not doing serious content in epics, but I will get a lot more serious about my gear once we get to endgame. Feats for level 21 is going to be Epic Eldritch Blast. It gives me +2d6 Eldritch Blast dice and 1d6 per 2 epic/legendary levels. And just showing the character sheet. And let's get started. So we're going to do the weapon shipment. And that's just around the corner. Right over the hill, on the other side of the Devil's Spine. Now, if you happen to be doing this one lower than level 20, where you can do it on Reaper, I would not recommend stepping up the skulls, even if you are otherwise capable of doing so, because this is, in part, an escort quest. And if your NPC, Leela, dies, then guess what? You fail. So, yeah. I would really just recommend doing it on R1, if you're trying to get maximum XP across the board. I, of course, can't do it on R1 because I am epic level, and you cannot enter a heroic dungeon on Reaper mode once you hit 20, even though this is level 21 on Elite. And I talked about my frustrations with that system, last episode, so let's not belabor it. So you do want to keep her safe. You can buff her up. Hit her with a blur, death ward, whatever, anything you got, right? You don't want to run ahead of her either. If you're unfamiliar with this quest, she moves at her own pace. She's not tethered to you like some NPCs are. All right, so if you run ahead, she's the trigger for the spawn. So if you run ahead, you might not realize mobs spawn behind you because she's the trigger for it, and then she's getting jacked, and by the time you realize it, she's dead. So we're going to intimidate those mobs off of her since we're a tank. Using tentacles to do some crowd control. Keep an eye on her health. You can see she took a little bit of damage. I'm going to throw her a heal scroll. Actually, I should have just thrown her a healing pillar. Forgetting what I'm doing here. I don't need to throw heal scrolls. With healing pillar, a lot faster. And I don't have to swap out what's in my hand. Okay, use Intimidate to get these mobs. Throw in my shield at that guy. Because Intimidate was on cooldown. Shield and that's Throw the Boom. Or Knight's Challenge. Throw the Boom is when we have the upgrade. Knight's Challenge is the aggro grabber. Really, really wonderful ability. I talked about that in the last episode. Love it, love it, love it. Probably my favorite addition to the Unyielding Sentinel tree when they made the changes to Epic Destinies. You got the initial aggro there. Going the other way is just an optional. Not really any compelling reason to do it. Now, just in case you're watching and you haven't played this game in like a decade and you had done this quest years ago, they did actually change the end fight. Okay? And one of the ways that they changed it is that you no longer have to protect Leela once she gets her ritual started. You'll have to protect her for this very first fight, but after that, she's doing her own thing, and she's inactive, so cannot be damaged. Whereas years ago, you had to keep her protected the entire end fight. And the end fight's changed now, where it's just like wave after wave after wave. It's so long, I can't really remember exactly how it played out before, other than the fact that, you know, now she is immune to damage once she gets her ritual started, and there's a lot more mobs to this. Another change from years ago is that this quest will now fail if there's nobody alive in the end fight. So if everybody dies, the quest will automatically fail. Or if you leave the end fight, say to go use the shrine, by going back through that cave, if there's nobody alive in here, you will instantly fail the quest. Layla does not count for somebody being alive. You will instantly, if I stepped in there right now, I would instantly fail. See, failure, at least one person must hold the Plains Gate until the shipment arrives. But what you can do is you can actually park a hireling. So we'll see if I can demonstrate that. Just in case you need a shrine and you are soloing. Lots and lots of mobs here. It can be pretty overwhelming to the unsuspecting, you know, if somebody's new to this. But it's going to be a piece of cake for us. Now, this is a situation because we have archers here that I'm going to go ahead and switch to chain shape. Archers don't want to kite together really well. I don't have the aura going when I'm in chain shape, but that's okay. We're plenty of defensive enough that we don't even have to worry about it. Didn't even have shining through up, but I just did it. Right? So we can use chain shape on those archers, cleans them right up, and now we switch back to aura. Oh, it's another round of archers. Okay, back to chain shape. I'm going to anchor on the light bearer because he's going to be the beefiest. I'm surprised that he died first before the others. Okay, with another round of archers, I'm going to demonstrate how, if you're soloing this, how you can... Okay, we're going to leave some archers alive, right? Switching to aura, get rid of this trash. Okay, I'm going to go up here. You can jump up there. If you have a good jump, and you catch the lip like that. Let's see, do I have level 15 Shield Guardian? Let's bring him out. And what you're going to want to make sure that you park him here. Put him on non-aggressive, put him on passive, and park him here. Okay? And then you can go in here and you can use the shrine. And if you do that, position yourself as far away from the shrine as possible, because that way you can still click on the door. If you see your shield guardian or your hireling taking damage, you can just instantly click back in. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you've moved closer to the shrine, it's going to take you an extra second or two to get back in there. But we don't actually need him to rest. We don't need the shrine. We don't go through a lot of spell points. And if we do, we've got our 3 charges of major mnemonic aid from our Epic Ring of Spell Storing, and we've got another charge of major mnemonic aid from the Mysterious Bauble, again, that comes from this quest. That's why we're doing this one as part of this episode. And I want you to see that you can solo this. If you're new, this one can be pretty intense to solo. But you're not going to have a problem with it with this build. It might not be the fastest build to do it in the world, but you're not going to have a problem staying alive. And, you know, some squishier builds could very easily get overwhelmed by the large number of mobs in this quest. In later waves, it's going to get pretty ridiculous when we start getting to, like, the devils and the succubus and stuff. Remember, we can use Gust of Wind, boom, to blow out persistent AoEs like that Acid Rain. And there's a very nice Gust of Wind clicky that comes out of Heroic Three Barrel Cove called the Brine Shaman Staff. I'm sure I talked about it in earlier episodes, but I just love that clicky. And, you know, it has 3 charges, but they actually recharge at a rate of 1 every 30 seconds. And that's kind of an undocumented feature of that one. It doesn't say they recharge. It just says 3 per rest. But it does indeed recharge every 30 seconds. 1 charge every 30 seconds. So you can use it way more than 3 times per rest. If you prefer, you can just use scrolls, or if you don't have that, it is a common drop from end rewards of Heroic Three Barrel Cove. I have that on all my characters. And I can do, you know, Tensor's Transformation if I feel like I want even more defense. So we're at endgame, we're doing like High Skull Reaper questing, we're going to be keeping Tensors on all the time. It does increase the cooldown of spells significantly, but we don't really throw a lot of spells. It doesn't change the cooldown of bursts, though, and it doesn't have any effect on your aura. And it doesn't have any effect on, like Healing Pillar and Renewal. Those SLAs from the Epic Destinies. Standing here for a minute to show you that they're barely, most of the time they're missing me, but even when they're hitting me, not really doing a whole lot. But if you wanted to, you know, you could use like dancing balls. Even though we're not a DC caster, this is pretty low difficulty content. It's still heroic content, so, you know, our DC is going to be good enough to hit some mobs. Dancing ball lasts a long time, which is nice, as our DC is a 40. I remember when the level cap was 20 years ago, back prior to 2012, and 40 used to be the gold standard for what was considered epic, you know, epic questing at the time, which were quests you could only do when you were level 20. 40 was the gold standard. You could get a little bit higher than that. I think wizards could even get maybe like 43, 44, 45-ish. Sork's about 42. But you'd see LFMs up back in the day, you know, for like epic chronoscopes, you know, need mass hold monster DC 40 plus. So, we're not a DC caster, but let's talk about DCs at endgame just for a moment. You know, what else are we going to do while we're killing a bunch of devils and demons? So if you are a DC caster, again, we are not, but if you are, what's the standard today? Here, you know, here we are, it's November 2012. And I would say your absolute minimum standard for DC casting at endgame, like serious difficulty content, your absolute minimum would be 100. Which is totally achievable even on a first lifer with proper gear. Okay? 110 is better. 120, better still. And 130, you're a certified baller. Okay? I think 140 is actually achievable now. I think like Deep Gnome Illusionists that have like every possible past life and completionists and stuff are actually getting into the very low 140s right now. But like I said, 100 is your minimum goal. And you can definitely get a lot higher than that. Okay, so if you wanted to, let's just say for whatever reason you were on some build and you just were running out of resources, you didn't feel like you could stand up to this guy, you could literally let the Titan kill this guy. It takes a long time, but if you wanted to, you could just sit back and do nothing. You know, you go take a shower, come back, it'll be over. Because as long as he's aggroed on the Titan, he's not going to turn on you, but we damaged him, so he's pissed off at us. And use a heal scroll to get rid of both the disease and poison simultaneously, as opposed to drinking a separate poison and disease pot. It's a little bit faster. You can use tentacles on a boss. Okay, the crowd control effect has no effect on red names and purple names, but they will still take some damage from it. Tentacles does damage. Bada bing, bada boom, that's it, baby. I think that maybe the Bauble only drops from the middle chest, I believe. So if you're gonna re-roll, you just want to re-roll the middle. We already got one, so we don't need to do that. And that is how to solo weapon shipment. Now, we're gonna go do Sins of Attrition. So here's where you get your Bauble from. Sins of Attrition is one of the 4 quests that you'll need to do if you want access to your Yugoloth potions. There are just 4 quests in 1 raid that give Yugoloth favor. And the raid is Tower of Despair. You won't need to do that to get enough favor. In fact, you don't even need to do all 4 quests on Elite. I think you need to do like 2 or 3 of them on Elite, and then you can do 1 or 2 of them on Hard. I already did the other 3 on Elite. I was actually joined by Gijo for those. He happened to be my level range when I was doing them the other night, so. But we're going to solo this one. And I kind of chose this one because there's lots of mobs, and I just want to demonstrate, you know, and there's traps, and I just wanted to demonstrate survivability and ability to take on a lot of mobs at once. We're just doing Elite. We'll see how much we can push it. Remember I told you before, when it comes to traps, over the years a lot of people have asked me, well, how do you deal with traps? We survive them. That's how we deal with them. Get my shining through going. So I got a big buffer of temporary hit points pushed out in front of me, so when I take damage, it's just ticking off of my temporary hit points. And then by the time that gets chewed down, my shining through would be off timer. I just hit it again. The Arcane Tempest. Easy peasy. Now we will not be we will not be dedooring back to use the shrine at the start, but if you had to for some reason, it's important to be aware of that in this quest. Once you do the first mini boss fight, all those statues in the early halls will then activate. So if you end up having to dedoor for the shrine at the start, after that point, you're gonna have to fight your way back through them. So if you do need to dedoor to use that beginning shrine, I would recommend that you do it prior to the first mini boss fight. This quest is kind of neat because it has 6 different endings. And since it's kind of themed on the 7 deadly sins. Yet, why aren't there 7 endings? I don't know. In any event, so the first mini boss fight is right up here. And you can see his name is Siligia, and Siligia is like an acronym for the Latin names of the 7 deadly sins. I can't even remember what they all are. You can look it up if you want. But like Avaricia and whatever gluttony is, like in any event, you have to choose one of these items on the table, and these are all like sort of representative of the different sins. Like the gold represents like greed, and then the ham is like gluttony, etc. I'm gonna take Gulla's ham. That's a pretty easy end fight, but the item that you take there will determine which end fight you do. And as I said, there's 6 different end fights. Ligia. Knowledge of the 7 deadly sins is irrelevant for purposes of doing this quest. Just a little fun fact about it. I didn't know that for years. I always wondered what the hell Siligia was, and sometimes the devs do creative things with naming mobs, and there's a lot of pop culture references, so I thought it might refer to something, so I googled Siligia one day, and that's how I found out that it was an acronym for the 7 deadly sins. So we got big traps here, control box to disable them. Obviously we're not a trapper. Traps, you just walk right through them. Stay out of the middle of this room, you get tossed up and into the spikes by these air jets. Boom, don't let that happen to you. That's pretty painful. But no sweat. I'm just gonna push it until we get a frickin' red dungeon alert, baby. See what happens. A little death won't kill you. Okay, there's a red dungeon alert. And I'm just gonna sit here and sip my coffee. That's good coffee. It's cold though, because this is from the morning. I just got done with my morning show about an hour ago. Yep, hands free, baby. No big whoop, right? Notice how they're all melting away. I'm not even bursting. It's my aura that's just chewing them right up. And I haven't even lost all of my temporary hit points. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier in the series that sometimes I refer to this as my do-nothing build because, as you can see, you can do nothing and everything dies. Don't try that in High Skull Legendary Reaper, okay? But, if we're doing elite TOD flaggers at level 21, no problem. Remember, our aura alone is our constitution bonus ×2 in temporary hit points every 2 seconds. So that's 134, if I did my math right. 134 temporary hit points every 2 seconds, just is constantly being pumped out in front of the damage. Now you can fight backwards. There is a shrine down that way. I think there's about 3 fights to get there. We don't need a shrine. We're a warlock. Or at least not a mana using warlock. Now, of course, my past lives and Reaper points and gear are all helping me be able to stand there and do nothing. If you're rocking a first lifer, you might not be able to do that, but you are still going to be able to stand up to big groups of mobs. And it's valuable to know that and to take advantage of that because, as I said before, this build can kill 20 mobs in the same amount of time as it can kill 1 mob. So when you can tackle big groups at a time, it makes it more efficient. We don't solo very fast on this. If you need to solo a quest, you can, but it's not very fast. One of the things that can help you speed it up is kiting mobs together into a giant ball and just blowing them up with your bursts, right? Because we can kill all these mobs in the same amount of time as it would take us to kill one. Bada bing, bada boom. These dishes are done, son. And we're going to pull both those levers. And now we're going to go to the end fight. Well, here you do have a choice. You can free the slaves. You're free to go. And I think you get, what, a little bit of XP for that. Do you get anything for it? I don't think you get anything for it except for clear conscience. Or you can pull the lever and kill the slaves. It'll, like, spikes will come out of the lever and kill the slaves, and you'll get a shrine. So you can sacrifice the slaves to get a shrine if you really need it. Don't worry, they're not real. They're just pixels. Don't let it bother you. If you need a shrine, just pull the lever. I promise. They're just pixels. Oh, and in that last room, there's different hallways, and those are the different end fights. But this is the way we go for the end fight that we chose. Remember, the item that we chose, the ham, at that Saligia fight, determined that this was the fight that we were going to have. If we had chosen a different item, it would have been one of the other halls. Hell yeah. And now we're going to double recall back to Amrath. Turn in my quest here. There's a set of boots with 2 slots. That's got some value. Would be more valuable if I had 2 colored slots, but hey, a double slotted pair of boots like that definitely has some value. Now I shouldn't have enough favor. I'm happy to accept such an honor, Zanjan, or Zadjan. And now you can talk to the Yugoloth Alchemist here. We've unlocked that favor reward, and here are your... You can get Marks of Yugoloth here, which are used in King's Crafting. I can't remember what recipe it's used for. I think it's just like one recipe. And then here are your 6 different Yugoloth potions. Your Charisma one, your Strength, Wisdom, Constitution, Intelligence, and Dexterity. You know, if you're a DC caster, that's +2 stacking to like your caster stat, and you know that's another DC, right? And then if you have your Mysterious Remnant, long-lasting potion for that stat, that's 2 more stacking to a stat. That's another DC. You can get 2 DCs out of potting up like that. And 2 DCs is nothing to shake a stick at. So don't let me catch you shaking a stick at 2 DCs. If you want to know more about Yugoloth potions, like I said, I will link in the video description a separate video that I have that goes over all the rewards and penalties for their use. Thanks for watching. As always, you got any questions about this build, you can respond to the build post in the Warlock forums, or you can come visit me on the live stream. Hell yeah. See you soon.